Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to Resident Evil Code Veronica. We now have a lockpick, and as such, the contents of those briefcases and simple locks are now ours to claim, for we are the master of unlocking. Now, since we had pretty much had to give up our lighter for this, yeah, you might be spotting a bit of a problem when we make a return trip to the Ashford residence, and a certain basement part which means we have to encounter the eternal enemy of bats. But again, you'll see what I mean when we get there, because now we're going to be exploring, honestly, one of the creepier parts of Rockfort Island, mainly in terms of atmosphere and music, but also in terms of, well, some very medieval torture device kind of places that only Indiana Jones dares to probe. But yeah, a lot of what's mainly going on here is mainly commuting and, well, naked zombies. And, well, you know, stuff. Key items that we need to get and, well, yeah, pretty much just dusting our hands off the rest of this island for good, because, from this point forward, we're pretty much reaching the endgame territory for Disc 1, so, yeah, breathe in this island atmosphere while you can. And I suppose if there is anything I can say that, in spite of the vast scope of Code Veronica's environments, is that, and again, I think I might have paid a bit of dividends to this before, but again, like, you do get to see a lot of locales, and even if you are backtracking to areas that you've been to before, you're at least seeing some new sites or unlocking new areas that you haven't been to before, so, like, in spite of the repetition of just having to travel from one place to another, you are at the very least still at least accomplishing something and, you know, seeing something new, which, I don't know, to me really cuts down on the repetition. But of course, as with the emblem now opening the door, we basically gotta mow down the zombie! And again, that's pretty much the last you'll see of it. Like, I mean, you don't even really need to, like, do the whole finagly collect items to get item here thing and put them in the metal box. Because again, now that we have access to the other side, we can pretty much go on the other side, collect, you know, the grenade rounds and first aid spray that we put in there, and bada bing, we do the thing, and we can get our stuff and go. But of course, this isn't the only reason why we're here, because there is also a doctor's office, and forget it! But yeah, there is also a doctor's office that we have to explore with, well, some rather skeevy stuff inside it. As well as also showing us that Alfred Ashford is not the only nutcase walking around the island. I was really hoping there'd be a spelling error on that so I could make fun of them. But yeah, that was the little box that was blocking the door beforehand, and now that we moved that out of the way, we now have an item box. And again, another makeshift, save location. So again, it's now time for yet another exciting round of item management. The game. Although then again, it is kind of important at this point, so now we can get the case and open up our bowgun bolts, and I'm pretty sure what's inside here is the, another round of explosives, which, again, is still important to have, because again, you're going to want to save those up, not just for, a certain encounter coming up at the end of Disc 1, but also for the final boss, because, let me tell you, you know what, I think I might say that story right for the end, because, yeah, I was a dumbass. But anyway, I think you only get around like 20 explosive rounds for bowgun bolts here, but at the same time though, they are really powerful, especially against living things, so make sure that you keep them on hand and only use them when you need them, because Christ on a Christmas cracker, this is dangerous territory. But anyway, we're gonna be having a save of the game inside the little area where she contacted Leon, and that's pretty much going to be that. Yeah, if there's anything that's going to be describing this part, it's pretty much one part actual progression, another part item collection. Because that just looks so good in my collection! So I suppose in the meantime, before we enter the dream time of our minds... Actually, no, I'll save that trivia for later, because we are at least getting closer to some new stuff that I can talk about. And of course, in the meantime, I'll talk about Code Veronica X differences between the original later on. Although I suppose a bit of pishy trivia to tide you over in the meantime. Yeah, Code Veronica X is mainly known as the PS2 release. I believe there was a Japan-only Dreamcast release of Code Veronica X, but sadly never made the light of day over in the West for some reason. Couldn't really tell you why. I mean, it probably comes with all the stuff that it was bundled with, like the Wesker reports and, you know, a few trivial differences here and there, including the Devil May Cry 1 demo, but Heck, it's kind of a shame, because, like, I mean, even still, by 2001, even though the console was discontinued, there were still games coming out for the system, at least, well until a year or two after the Dreamcast died. Like, I mean, I think, one of the Monkey Ball games actually ended up getting released in 2002. And, you know, other games like Sonic Heroes were initially set for a Dreamcast release, so... what the fuck? Okay, I'm not gonna be doing that again. That was rife throughout the latter parts of Silent Hill 2, and, heck... another green herb. It'll look so good in my garden. But yeah, now we enter the doctor's office. And here the atmosphere just takes like 5 notches into creep zone territory. Like seriously man, the atmosphere is so thick you could cut it with a knife and the knife would be broken. Especially with a certain creepy scene later on. But first of all, a little bit of context. So, yeah, I guess working for the Ashford family, if anything, has its perks if you're a fucking psychotic maniac, because this guy's just like, man, I certainly do love gutting people and dissecting them. Thank goodness Alfred Ashford is a fucking broski. Now he gives me everything I need to dissect people. I was never very good at trauma center, but now I'm gonna study them in the basement with all my torture devices. Ugh. Well, I mean, even still, like, I mean, he's a crazed psychopath, but even he's scared of Alfred Ashford, which, again, should probably speak volumes about exactly how much power this man wields, even though, by the rest of the standards of the Ashford family, he's seen as pathetic. Jesus Christ. Did I just see that body bag move? Oh, no. I wonder what happened to the doctor. If the doctor is still there... then that means that Claire's gonna be in for a whole heap of trouble. I hope she doesn't have to go for the checkup. But yeah, this is also pretty much where you get the final case that you need, and, well, again, since we have the lockpick, yeah, the power is ours. Although, what you do get from this briefcase, in this area is pretty much just some handgun parts, which, basically gives you the same equivalent to the handgun that Leon could get in Resident Evil 2, where you pretty much have an... well, it pretty much just has auto-fire capability, so again, like, you hold down the A button and, well, basically it goes for the bu-bu-bus, bu-bu-bus, bu-bu-bus. And again, you can switch between auto and manual if you so choose, so, yeah, that's pretty much all she wrote. I mean, I don't think it does anything in terms of the handgun's power, and I mean, in that case, you might as well be better off using machine pistols, but then again, that also assumes that you save the ammo from them, which if you haven't, then, well, bugger. And since it runs on a percentage, you can't really get any ammo for it, so... fuck. But I mean, I will still say, in spite of all of that, this is a really creepy area, and, oh man, it, gives me the chills, gives me the willies, gives me the frightening fear that gives me a heart attack. I don't know why I'm using an Italian accent. But yeah, just combine the parts together, and, you shall have your new weapon. I mean, not quite useful, but I mean, hey, it's there. But in any case, we have everything that we need, including some handgun bullets. But yeah, the main thing we really need to worry about is the, eye. Because you know how people make fun of us with their eyes? Well, an eye that we get from the doctor is gonna prove to be quite useful. Here, 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 here. And they're really getting their mileage out of the heartbeat mechanic. Well, then again, there is kind of a reason for that one, and this one actually does pay it off with well, a much more powerful zombie. Or at least, compared to the other ones that tend to go down in like 5 or 6 shots. Oh god, what could be here? Chewing sounds! Some guy's having a lovely steak, or some guy is having his way with a dead body. Oh man, that construction surgery really does make him hungry. And I'm immediately reminded of the Scottish duck commentary of, quote Veronica, where he was like, oh, Claire, let me take your temperature. Nostalgia. It's like Disturbia, except better, because that movie was kinda shit. Well, I mean, at least I thought so anyway. I wasn't really too impressed when I caught it on TV a couple of years ago. But yeah, it's not enough for just the doctor to come back to life. No, instead his victim needs to rise from his body bag grave, and yes, we get an eye. Which again is pretty much all we need to get a key item, and then we can finally move on to greener, less intelligible pastures. Which was pretty much the entire reason why we had this little, well, mannequin here. An actual mannequin that belongs in a hospital, unlike Silent Hill 2, which had this abstract Francis Bacon-looking thing walking around the streets or in the hospital and places where it didn't belong. But again, this is another area where you're going to be running into the dreaded threat known as bats. And you're going to find out why, that if you don't have the lighter at this point, that you're going to be sorely missing it, because, well, this. Again, like, they swarm you, and again, while their damage output isn't really that severe, again, they can basically stall you, and again, since they come in swarms, it's difficult to destroy them. I mean, in a more enclosed area like that, it is easy to pick them off, but Jesus Christ, in the mansion segment in the Auschwitz residence, you are really gonna be, hounding to take them down, and, well, again, they don't stay together, so using your grenade launchers out, using your bullets are out, unless, of course, you're a pretty good crack shot with it. And it's just overall a pain in the buttocks. And also, given the wine glass in the chair, is this meant to imply that that Alfred was watching these executions take place? I mean, he is enough of a sick fuck that he can do it, but then again, that might also be the doctor's place, or unless he was the one carrying it out, which is equally likely when you consider that, well, there is a demon in his mind. But again, we don't need to worry about that, because now we have a nice statue, where the game gets its most Devil May Cry as we pick out the death sentence sword, which we can then stab for another key item that allows us to fight the Nilo Angelo. And again, this is what I meant by Indiana Jones bullshit. Basically, turn this around before time runs out, or Claire gets gassed. It's so easy that I've never actually seen anybody lose this, and if they have, well, you might just be the first. I mean, honestly, I really have no idea what happens. Like, does she choke to death, or is it like a thing where you progressively lose health? I have no idea. But what I do know for certain is that that's an Iron Maiden. Excellent! But again, put in the death sentence, you can't use that as a weapon because, well, it's not Devil May Cry or Onimusha, so fuck it. Also, jump scare, one of the more effective ones actually, because, well, yeah, it kinda makes sense for him to be tortured. And he's also got the sword sticking out of him. Could he be the devil who may cry? Well, no really. Also, kinda surprised the spikes don't hurt you, but, whatever. And now, ladies and gentle ladies, commuting in its finest form. I am pretty much cutting down on a lot of this, but, it's kind of a pain in the buttocks. So in the meantime, it's time for some Code Veronica X trivia. Again, in terms of a lot of technical stuff, again, the game is pretty much the same thing as Code Veronica through and through. Same story, same basic outline, same everything really. I think the only thing that it doesn't have is the battle mode, but even then I haven't really stopped to check. So, yeah, that's probably my mind failing me. It might very well be there, but, whatever. The only real things it includes, apart from very vestigial differences, like, you know, the change in Steve's hairstyle or anything of the sort, is that it includes a couple more appearances by Albert Wesker, and of course it includes a little thing called the Wesker Report. It was something that I think was bundled with Code Veronica X, and it's pretty much something that explains what Wesker was doing before, during, and after Resident Evils 1, 2, and 3. So, like in the case of Resident Evil 1, it was explaining basically that, you know, he was working for Umbrella, he was rivals with William Birkin, which is something that is slightly touched upon in Resident Evil 0, but the Wesker reports go a little bit more into detail with it. In regards to what happens, it basically tells him what he was doing after his revival, which in that case was basically keeping an eye on Raccoon City and, well, monitoring Sherry Birkin, which, again, like, after her escape, I don't know if the little runaway Sherry audio drama is any degree of canon, because he doesn't really appear in that one, or at least not to my recollection. But yeah, basically he was keeping a close eye on the situation, also dividing his attention between, you know, Sherry, Leon, and Claire, as well as keeping an eye on Jill, who, again, by Resident Evil 3 was still in Raccoon City, and, well, again, he was keeping an eye on her, and if the Resident Evil 5's anything to go by, yeah, I think you can probably figure out why. But again, it really is just, well, it's there to kind of bullshit an explanation as to why Wesker came back, and because the game itself doesn't really do much to explain that, and, well, that's kind of odd. But I mean, anyway, it's a way of bringing back the character, and doesn't quite make him a... Well, okay, again, I might have talked this up in, like, a joking tense beforehand, but, yeah, Resident Evil's Code Veronica and Code Veronica X have a very different approach to Wesker, because Code Veronica pretty much... Well, I mean, it does treat Wesker as, powerful to a certain extent, but at the same time, it doesn't make him, like, the overly powered fanfiction badass that he would be in, like, Resident Evil 5. Although Code Veronica X does kind of change that, because, like, he does have a few more action scenes where Wesker, well, basically makes more liberal use of his Matrixy superpowers, and, well, that's kind of why I like to nickname Code Veronica X Wesker's fanfiction game, because, literally, it only exists to give him more screen time, and to show off how cool he is, compared to Chris. Which, doesn't surprise me, because, Wesker's a jealous bitch. You know, like that scene where he unleashed the Tyrant in Resident Evil 1, he was like, Chris? Stop it! But anyway, we use the piano roll, we continue to play the leitmotif of dun 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 dun, and of course we get the final key item that we need for the Ashford residence. So we're pretty much going to have a save of the game, and by the next part we are going to be delving into some revelations, so... On that note, I am Solidus-Skully, keeping new metal, and we've still got a few bits and pieces left to do. But after that, yeah, we're reaching the end of Disc 1. If only we had more time to enjoy ourselves. But I guess that's a far-off dream now. You're back! Oh, these times are getting dangerous, Claire. You should really take more care of yourself. I fear that a storm is on the horizon. Please rest in the inn for now. Allow me to recharge your magic. And be on the lookout for that Steve. I know he's a child, but I fear that he may have to go into battle with you. On that note, I am Solidus-Skully, the scullery maid of the Inn Tavern, and next time on Resident Evil Code Veronica, problems will be arise. See you next time.